Hi, Mr. Eaton here, and today we're going to look at using formulas. Well, what is a formula? Well, it is a rule, and it is an expression that relates to two or more variables. So, for example, here we have a formula, which is the area of a circle is pi r squared. Alright, so that is an example of a formula, and we have a variable, which is the r squared over there, and also we need to find what the area is. You can find the value of one of the variables if you know the value of all of the other ones. So for example, find the value of b if you know that a is 12, little a is 5, and h is 4. Put the video on pause and put those values into this equation and see if you can solve it for b. Alright, put the video on pause, come back when you're ready. Alright, well, how did we go? Well, let's quickly substitute the values in. So I've got 12 equals 1/2 of a, which happens to be 5, plus I've got to find my b, and I know my h is 4. Alrighty, so 12 equals 1/2 multiplied by 4 multiplied by, open brackets, 5 plus b. Alrighty, so that's 12 equals half of 4 is 2, and we're going to multiply that by 5 plus b. Okay. My next step is to divide by 2 on each side, because I want to get rid of this number over here, which is multiplied by 2. So I'm going to go 2, 5 plus b over 2, and from there obviously that cancels with that one, that goes into that, and that goes in 6 times. The next line obviously is going to be 6 equals 5 plus b, and I'm going to therefore move the 5 across to this side, therefore 1 equals b, and therefore clearly b is equal to 1. Now, in a formula, the subject of the formula is the variable that you are looking to find or solve for, okay, and will normally sit on the left hand side of the equation. So for example, in c equals, or circumference equals, 2 pi multiplied by radius, the c here is what we call the subject. So we can also substitute values into formulas in order to evaluate the subject itself. So for example, in this formula, s equals a over 1 subtract r, if we know that a is 3 and r is 0.4, we can substitute these values straight into the formula and therefore find this value over here, which is the subject. So I'll go ahead and do that. So s is the subject that I need to find. A is 3 over 1 minus 0.4. Okay. Therefore s equals 3 over 0.6. And then when I simplify this fraction over here, I say how many times does 0.6 go into 3? Well, 0.6 goes into 3 exactly 5 times. So s, which is the subject that I'm trying to find, is equal to 5. Alright, well, here's another equation or formula for you. So the formula is E equals 1/2 mv squared, and we know that m is 4 and v is 5. We need to substitute these values into the formula over here and solve for E, which is our subject. Put the video on pause and give it a go. Okay, so how did you go solving it? Well, let's do it. So E equals 1/2 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5 squared, and that is the same as 1/2 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 5. And if we multiply all of that out, we end up with 50. So E, in this case, which is the subject of the formula over here, the answer for that formula is in fact 50. because we know what m is and we know what v is. So we have solved for the subject E. A formula can also be transposed, which is another word for being rearranged, to make another variable the subject. So in this over here we had the subject, which was C, equals 2 pi r. And we can actually transpose that or rearrange the formula if we need to find r. And so we make r the subject and we end up with C over 2 pi. Now how did I get that? Well, I wanted r by itself, so I divided both sides by 2 pi. So let's do that. So it becomes C over 2 pi equals 2 pi r divided by 2 pi. And as we know, when we simplify, that gets simplified, that gets simplified. So my answer therefore is C over 2 pi equals r. And that is exactly the same as that over there, with the subject moved to the front. So I could rearrange this particular equation to r equals C over 2 pi. And that's exactly the same as that. Alright, so here's a little bit of practice for you. We want to make b, in this case it's sitting over there in this equation, we want to make b the subject. So we've got to move b from that position over there, and it's got to stand alone by itself on the left hand side. Put the video on pause, give this a go, and when you're ready come back and see if you got it right. Okay, well there's two ways that we could actually do this. I'll show you the first way in blue and the second way in red. Well, firstly I'm going to divide each side by a to get rid of this a over here. So I would have C over a equals a x plus b over a. And I can therefore cancel that a with that a, and I'm left with C over a equals x plus b. And I can remove the brackets, so it'll be C over a equals x plus b. Now I need to remove this x from this side, so what I'm going to do, because it's a plus, I'm going to subtract x from this side, which will cancel those guys out, and I need to subtract x from this side. So therefore I would have C over a minus x is equal to b, and therefore b would equal C over a minus x. So that's the first way you could do it. The second way is just multiplying out these brackets over here. So I'm going to do that in red. So that would be C equals ax plus ab. Now I need to get b by itself, so I'm just going to sort that out first. So the ax over here I'm going to move across to the other side. So therefore I will have C minus ax equals ab. And we know that ab is the same as a times b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this side by a, therefore I need to divide this side by a. So I therefore have C minus ax over a is equal to b. So that's the second way that you could actually solve that particular equation and make b the subject of this particular equation, ax over a. Alright, so that's the first way over here, and this is a second way. Both are absolutely correct. Alright, last bit of practice for you. Make b the subject in this equation. There's b over there. We need to have b as the subject over here on the left hand side all by itself. Put the video on pause, give it a go, come back when you're ready. Alright, how did you go? Well, the first thing I want to look at is this squared root sign over here. I need to get rid of that. And the inverse or the opposite operation of a squared root is a square. And you notice that c is not squared at all, it's all by itself. So therefore, to get rid of the squared root sign, I go c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Alright, well the next little problem is getting b squared by itself first of all. So I'm going to move a squared to the other side. So I'm going to have c squared minus a squared equals b squared. We then make b the subject, so it'll be b squared equals c squared minus a squared. And now the inverse operation of squared is squared root. So in order to get b by itself, we go b equals the squared root of c squared minus a squared. And we have now made b the subject in this particular equation. And that's the end of using formulas.